September 2nd, 1457, a valley in the Albanian mountains holds a secret. 80,000 Ottoman soldiers sleep in their camp. Their fires dot the darkness like fallen stars. They dream of conquest, of glory, of the easy victory that awaits them. They don't know that death is already here, watching from the heights, waiting in the shadows. 8,000 men, hidden in the darkness, silent as graves. By sunrise, 30,000 will be dead. The mathematics say it's impossible. History says otherwise. 4 years earlier, Constantinople fell. The great city that stood for 1,000 years crumbled in weeks. The Ottoman Sultan rode through streets that ran red with Byzantine blood. The empire seemed unstoppable. One kingdom after another bent the knee. Serbia, Bulgaria, parts of Hungary. The Ottoman war machine rolled across the Balkans like a storm of steel and fire. But in the Albanian mountains, one man refused to kneel. George Kastrioti. The Albanians called him Skanderbeg, the dragon. This wasn't some minor warlord playing at resistance. Skanderbeg was raised in the Ottoman court, trained by their generals, taught their tactics. He spoke their language. He understood how they thought. And then he turned all that knowledge into a weapon against them. For 14 years, he made them bleed in these mountains. Every invasion turned back. Every army repelled. The Albanian clans, fractured for centuries, united under his banner for the first time. The Ottomans called him the Devil of Albania. European kings called him their last hope. But now, the empire had a secret weapon. Hamza Kastrioti, Skanderbeg's own nephew. The boy who chose empire over blood, who converted to Islam, who now wore Ottoman colors and led their armies against his homeland. He knew every path through these mountains, every hidden spring, every defensive position his uncle favored. The family that should have stood together would meet as enemies on a battlefield soaked in blood. Summer 1457. The Ottoman force assembled. 80,000 men, perhaps more. The sources disagree on the exact number, but they all agree on one thing. It was overwhelming. 40,000 infantry, veterans who'd conquered cities from Anatolia to the Adriatic. 20,000 cavalry, the elite Sipahi riders who struck like lightning. 20,000 more in support, engineers, supply handlers, camp followers. This wasn't a raid. This was annihilation written in flesh and steel. At the head rode Isaac Bey, governor burning for revenge after previous defeats, and beside him, Hamza, ready to deliver his uncle's head to the Sultan. They marched into Albania expecting victory. They marched into a trap that would be studied for centuries. Skanderbeg had 8,000 men, every single one hand-picked, mountain-born, raised in these peaks where the air cuts like knives and the paths are known only to ghosts. The odds were impossible. So Skanderbeg did something that seemed like madness. He made his army disappear. As the Ottoman force advanced, they found nothing. Empty villages, abandoned watchtowers, no Albanian soldiers anywhere. Their scouts ranged ahead, searching for resistance. Nothing. Hamza assured the Ottoman commanders this was typical. "My uncle retreats to his fortresses," he said. "He'll make his stand at Kruja. This is what he always does." What Hamza didn't know was that his uncle had learned new tricks. While 80,000 boots marched confidently through empty lands, 8,000 warriors moved like smoke through hidden paths. They traveled at night, small groups, routes that horses couldn't follow. By day, they vanished into caves and forests. No fires, no light, no sound. Rumors spread through shepherds and merchants, carefully planted stories that reached Ottoman ears. The Albanian army was falling apart. Skanderbeg was sick. The clans were fighting among themselves. Some said he'd fled to Venice. Every lie was designed to make the Ottomans feel safe, to make them lower their guard, to lead them exactly where Skanderbeg wanted them. The Valley of Timor-Leste. The Ottomans saw perfection. Long and narrow, protected on three sides by steep walls, a stream running through it, space enough for their massive army to rest before the final push. Isaac Bey smiled. Hamza nodded approval. They made camp on September 1st as the sun began to set. 80,000 men settling in for the night. Cooking fires, laughter, the sounds of soldiers at ease. Guards posted at the valley mouth, the only entrance, the only exit. Everything seemed secure. But in the forests above, 8,000 pairs of eyes were watching and waiting. Darkness fell like a curtain. The Albanian forces began their final approach. 3 columns, each knew exactly where to position, each man maintaining absolute silence. They moved through the night like spirits, crawling through brush, sliding down rocky paths where one misstep meant death. By 3 in the morning, they were in position, surrounding the valley on 3 sides. Now came the hardest part: waiting. Dawn broke with mist clinging to the mountainsides. In the valley below, Ottoman soldiers stirred. Morning prayers, breakfast fires, another day of easy marching ahead. The outer guards yawned at their posts. They never heard the Albanian hunters approach. A hand over the mouth, a blade in the dark. One by one, the sentries simply vanished. At exactly 6 o'clock, Skanderbeg raised his war horn to his lips and blew. The echo echoed off the valley walls like thunder, bouncing, multiplying, coming from everywhere and nowhere. Before the Ottomans could react, the sky went dark, not with clouds, with arrows, thousands of them, falling from 3 directions at once. Men died before they could grab their shields. Horses screamed, tents collapsed. And then the Albanians came down from the heights like an avalanche, their battle cries echoing off stone, multiplying until it sounded like 30,000 men instead of 8,000. Skanderbeg led the cavalry charge himself, smashing into the Ottoman flank like a hammer on glass. The Ottoman commanders tried to rally their men. These were veterans, trained soldiers who'd seen battle from Syria to Serbia. They tried to form defensive squares, tried to organize counterattacks. But the valley that seemed so perfect for defense had become a death trap. Too many men in too small a space. Units couldn't link up. Officers couldn't find their men. Orders were shouted in Turkish, in Arabic, in a dozen languages. Nobody could hear. Nobody could coordinate. And still the Albanians came. From the heights, from the forests, from positions that shouldn't have been possible. Then Skanderbeg gave a signal. 3 short blasts on his horn. Albanian warriors produced torches, and set the valley on fire. Not the men. That's not the genius of it. They set fire to the dry brush on the valley sides, to abandoned supply wagons, to anything that would produce smoke. The morning wind, predictable in these mountains, carried thick clouds down into the valley. Now, imagine it. You're already fighting for your life, already surrounded, and suddenly you can't see 5 feet ahead. The smoke stung eyes, choked throats, turned the battlefield into a nightmare. Ottoman archers couldn't pick targets, cavalry couldn't charge what they couldn't see, and in the chaos they began killing each other. Ottoman units, glimpsing movement through the smoke, attacked what they thought were enemies. They were killing their own men. Turkish voices screaming identification, but in the smoke and terror, no one could be certain of anything. Isaac Bey's elite guard attempted a breakout. The best warriors in the Ottoman force, the household cavalry. They formed a wedge and charged toward the valley mouth. They didn't see the hidden trenches until it was too late, didn't see the planted stakes. Horses screamed, riders flew through the air. The breakout became a massacre within the massacre. 3 hours into the battle, Isaac Bey fell. Some say an Albanian lance found him. Others claim he was trampled by his own panicking cavalry. With his commander dead, the Ottoman army shattered completely. Men threw down their weapons, tore off their armor, trampled wounded comrades in their desperation to escape. The narrow valley mouth became a killing ground. Thousands tried to squeeze through at once. Men were crushed to death by their own comrades, and at the exit, Albanian warriors waited with swords drawn. By noon, it was over. The Ottoman army that entered the valley 80,000 strong existed only in fragments. 30,000 dead, 15,000 captured. The rest scattered across the mountains, hunted by Albanian cavalry who knew every hiding place. Skanderbeg's losses, less than 1,000. The mathematics were impossible. The victory was undeniable. When Hamza was brought before his uncle, wounded and in chains, Skanderbeg looked at him for a long moment. "You chose empire over blood, nephew. See where that choice led." He didn't execute him. Sometimes mercy cuts deeper than any sword. The news reached Constantinople like a lightning strike. Sultan Mehmed, conqueror of Constantinople, the man who'd broken the Byzantine Empire, received reports that made him physically ill. His massive army annihilated, his commanders dead, his invasion shattered. They say he raged for days. Church bells rang from Venice to Rome. The Pope declared days of thanksgiving. Christian Europe, which had watched the Ottoman advance with growing terror, suddenly saw hope. If 8,000 could defeat 80,000, then perhaps all was not lost. Poets immortalized Skanderbeg overnight, Europe's shield, the mountain eagle who broke the crescent. Skanderbeg would fight for another 11 years until his death in 1468. The Ottomans would eventually conquer Albania, but it would take them decades, and it would cost them resources that might otherwise have pushed deeper into Europe. The battle at Timor-Leste proved something that empires always forget. Numbers don't guarantee victory. Courage and cunning can topple giants, and sometimes, in the right hands, 8,000 men are worth more than 80,000. Military academies still study that September morning. The perfect ambush, the use of terrain as a weapon, the psychology of warfare. How the impossible became inevitable through preparation and genius. The valley where 30,000 died in 6 hours stands quiet now. But if you listen closely in the mountain wind, you can still hear the echoes. War cries bouncing off stone, the thunder of hooves, the moment when David didn't just defeat Goliath, he annihilated him. Empires rise on victories, but they learned their limits from defeats like this. When 8,000 mountain warriors can destroy 80,000 imperial soldiers, the message is clear. No conquest is certain. No empire is invincible. No victory is guaranteed until the last sword falls silent in the Albanian mountains.